Hey babes, welcome back. If you're new here, I am Christina DiStefano. I just want to say up front, little Louie, I did get the new mic in, but I cannot figure out how to get it to connect to the camera. So the video had to be recorded now and it had to be recorded today. And so we're going to go with what we have. We're going to make what we have work. So I guess I'm just going to have to talk a little bit louder. Oh my. Anyway, if you are new here, welcome. I'm Christina DiStefano, and I talk about interior design from an artistic perspective. I am an artist. I paint, I work in various mediums, and I always believe that you should follow your heart. So my job here for you is basically to help guide you into trusting your instincts, trusting your intuition when it comes to designing your home, when it comes to making your selections and your choices, and even refining and identifying what your style is. That being said, we're getting into styling your home on a $0 budget. Yes, $0. So the number one, I would say you want to go into your home, and this is pretty obvious, but you want to declutter and you want to organize things because everything looks better. The space, like energetically, feels better when it is clean and it is free of free of dust. And also things are organized. So before you jump into any creative endeavor, go and give your place a good dusting, give it a good vacuuming, a good sweeping. Maybe when you get done with all that, open some windows, allow some fresh air to come in, light a stick of Palo Santo, something like that. But you want to kind of clean the space. You want to clean the slate so you're working with kind of your blank canvas. And I do this actually in my art studio. It helps me sort of process some of the creative anxiety that I've sort of built up throughout the week, or throughout the day before I've actually had a chance to get in the studio and start moving and start creating. So by going into your home, which is like your art studio, by going into your home, cleaning things up, tidying things up, dusting, you're kind of processing some thoughts, some creative thoughts. You're kind of moving energy throughout your body because it's kind of a little bit physical. So you're kind of starting to kind of ease yourself and relax a little bit. So that way you can access your creativity a little bit easier. It's like that creative, intuitive voice is able to come out if the anxiety of the world has subsided. And so the way to do that is to get your body moving, and what better way to get your body moving than to go and kind of clean and tidy up your space. So that's going to be number one. I think that's probably the most obvious, but perhaps, this extra info that I'm telling you about moving your body and processing the whatever anxiety you have built up, whatever, will help you access that creative, intuitive voice a little bit more. Working in small vignettes. Now, I would say that don't stress yourself out about taking on a whole room or your whole home at once. So what I mean by that is work in one small vignette. And if you don't know what a vignette is, this could be considered a vignette right behind me, this little area right here. So this is just a little moment that I created to cover up a vent. If I'm being honest, it's covering up a vent, but it's some vintage books. And actually, let me take you over there. So it is some vintage books here. And then I've got matches. I've got these incense sort of papers. So you tear one off and then you put it on this little tray and then it burns and it creates a beautiful fragrance. So that's this little moment right here. And that's what I mean by creating. Let me just sit down before I start talking. That's what I mean by creating a vignette. You want to, let's get comfy again. you want to start working with like smaller moments like this, because once you create a vignette, it will start to give you a sense of what you want the vibe to be. So it kind of it's almost like a tactile, like a three-dimensional mood board, if you will. So it's kind of giving you a vibe that you're going for. One of the exercises that I like to do when and I feel like this camera is off. Sorry guys, I just want it perfect. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm designing or styling an area and I'm looking to kind of create a new vibe, I will go around my home, and I'm sure you've heard this before, to shop your home. I will go around my home and I will actually start collecting pieces that kind of look like they belong together. So what I mean by that is I may take a vase from the bedroom, I may take a couple pieces from the kitchen. So I start collecting pieces that kind of communicate with each other. Maybe they are kind of like in the same vibe, maybe kind of have the same story or the same kind of feeling, and then you want to add some things to it after that. So after you've collected things that kind of have that same vibe, then you want to find a few different objects that are in contrast to that. And as I've mentioned before, like, designers will use the word juxtaposition, which is basically bringing two things together that would not normally go together. So it's working with the design principle of contrast. And one of the things that I like to do, kind of like a simple rule that I like to follow, or kind of like a little plan that you could incorporate, is to go for something natural, so something that has a tactile feel. Go for something smooth, so it could be something that's glass, and go for something metallic, so something that kind of has like a modern feel to it, as well as a piece of art. And then finally, 5 things, you want to have a small wonder. So that's some little object, some little curiosity that, you know, when you have this vignette styled, you've got this one small piece that kind of brings the viewer in. And I think of that like kind of like a painting or a piece of art. You've got your composition, but you've got like the one piece or one area of emphasis that might be a little smaller than everything else in terms of scale, but it brings the viewer in. So when you're creating this vignette, it's like you're creating a little piece of art. So when you're looking at, like, say these pieces here, you notice the books, you notice the suitcases, but then your eyes kind of get pulled in, like, what is this little thing here? So that's what you're doing, and it creates kind of curiosity. So this is what I love about styling is, you know, you've got your design and your interior design, but the styling is what's going to create the curiosity, the wonder, that will create the feeling, that creates the visual interest that will bring people in. So you'll start working with vignettes, and often you'll hear like working in threes, working in odd numbers. We've talked about this before. So if you follow that simple sort of template that I laid out for you, that is one way of working with objects of 5. But if you were working with objects of 3, which I don't necessarily think you have to follow these kinds of rules. Now, granted, odd numbers, when you're working with asymmetry, so when things are not symmetrical, like meaning like a mirror image of each other, but you're working with asymmetry and you're balancing, odd numbers are great. If you're working with symmetry, then you have like an even number of objects on each side to create balance. So it's all about balance. If you're working with odd numbers, you're working with asymmetry. The way to achieve that with asymmetry is going to be through the odd numbers. So objects that are of different texture, objects that are different materials, objects that are thinner, skinnier pieces, just maybe even they're very similar objects, but they're in varied heights. So you've got a vessel, like that kind of situation where it's like boom, 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 kind of like a triangular shape if you were to look at it. So working in a triangle is very common in interior design just as it is with like creating a still life composition when you're drawing or you're painting. All right, so now let's have some fun. Let's go through some of these images. So some of the things I like about these images are, the first one I love is, this is the combination I'm referring to. You're using some kind of art, you're using something textural, you're using something modern or something shiny. You're using, like, there's some books here. So it's like placing things together. These things are from, none of these things like would you think go together, but the way that they've placed them together with intention, and you can see the way the eye moves up and down through that vignette, that this really works. This looks like it's in a kitchen. And if you just like first glance, when I saw this, I thought this was just on a table, and I wasn't exactly sure what those pieces were, but now that I've looked and studied the image more, I can see that they're knives. But this is a very cool way to place knives and a teapot in your kitchen. So it's great. Like this box, if you had a wood box somewhere that you weren't using and you have all these knives, you could place that in there and just get some paint and paint the outside of it black. And they've got it styled with this beautiful black, probably metal teapot on top of a little plinth, some kind of little column-y thing. And then do you see, like, I even love the way that the pipe on the wall works into the vignette. Here's another way of using these varied things. Now, I style and I design a lot with pieces from nature. Nature is one of my favorite places to source interesting things. And I would say to you, like, if you live in an apartment and you don't have access to nature, you can go to a park and you can find these things, because I lived in an apartment forever, and not even in New York before I had access to Central Park. I lived in apartments in other parts of the country and did not have access to immediately outside of my door to nature, but I would go for drives in the country and I would forge sticks, twigs. I found rocks, collect rocks. I've collected so many rocks on my trips, but this is just an example. And you know, if you have some extra paint, you could even apply some of the paint, like maybe from your color palette, to a piece of the wood. It's really just about like not judging yourself, but going for what feels creative and feels interesting. I also like the way that they've taken these pieces of driftwood and created like a little mobile. I think those are very creative ways to work with pieces of nature, collecting rocks, collecting sand, displaying them in glass jars. These are feathers and sticks that someone is displaying in just a pitcher. Like you may have an extra pitcher in your kitchen that you're not using. I mean, I always buy pitchers thinking that I'm going to use them, but never do. But I end up using them as vases instead. So I love the way that they've used that for this purpose. Here are more sticks, like collecting sticks and displaying them on a shelf with other objects. So again, we see a photograph in this image, but it could very well be a piece of art with a very clean modern frame and matted with a couple books, and you've got that brass. So you've got a little bit of that shine there. You've got a little bit of that metal combined with the glass, and then you've got like those rustic pieces of driftwood. Okay, so when I was talking about nature, I also think go and collect large branches, large pieces of beautiful like flowered grasses and things like that. These are things that you can literally drive down the street, go to the country, go to a park, trim off some of the grasses and take them home and put them in a glass vase. You can even get very dramatic, like if you're able to. I'm sure they purchase these sticks, but I just wanted to show you the image because it just goes to show you, like, drama is what it's about. It's creating a focal point. You know, if you can go outside in your yard and trim some big branches, put those in some vases, put them on a table, boom, like right there, that is a beautiful, like, eye-catching focal point, and it costs you nothing, just the energy of going outside. Another way to illustrate how you can find objects that kind of have the same vibe. So like, for example, this could very easily be like what you could do at home. You kind of go around your house, you have some extra baskets. I recognize these baskets from Amazon. I think that's where they were purchased. But extra baskets maybe you're not using in your bathroom. Do you have some glass jars that you're not using? Can you clean out some glass, like larger glass jars from your refrigerator, clean off the label? Do you have any boxes? Do you have any plants that you can kind of compile things together? There's even there's even a pair of shoes here that has kind of the vibe of this. So styling is really just bringing in objects that carry a similar message with then injecting some things that are kind of in contrast to that. So you've got all these natural materials, the natural grasses, but then you've got that shinier, slicker glass here. Another image where it's just a glass, like a table glass, like a water glass, where they've, used it as a vase and they've put some clippings here. I love this because this just goes to show how creative you can be and how anything goes right now with your creativity. This looks like a big floor vase that is either upside down or maybe not, but they've put a piece of wood, small wood piece on top. They've found a little hand sculpture, a few bottles, it looks like. Maybe some, I don't know, maybe those are some bathroom toiletries, or perhaps it looks like olive oil to me. But then they have a jar with some, some clippings from outside, and they have their rusty like radiator thing right there and an object that they've placed on top. And I don't even know what that is, but it looks interesting. Here's some more. I mean, look at this. This is just taking what looks like it could be a sheet that, the key to getting it this wrinkled is when you get it out of the washing machine and it's still wet, just kind of smash it, crumble it up like into a ball and really smash. And then you want to kind of lie it out to dry. And so you get that nice little crinkledness like on those cotton sheets. But it looks like just a sheet of some kind with a big glass jar and some flowers. I mean, these may have been purchased, but regardless, these are, if you have access to flowers or access to sticks or grasses, like beautiful long grasses, you could put something like that in here. Also, do not underestimate the power of stacks of books. So I've got my little stack of books there, but stacks of books. How are you displaying your books, number one, in your home? Do you have books? Do you collect books? Are they arranged in rainbow, like the colors of the rainbow order? If they are, don't do that. The way that I arrange my books is in kind of subject matter. So fiction in one area, I have a lot of like self-help or spiritual books, things like that. Another area, business related books, in another area, art books in another area. So, and naturally that creates a variety of color and shapes and sizes and things like that. So that's not really what I was talking about initially, but I had to just point that out. I had to bring that up. But books on tables, I love books on tables. And in fact, this image is great because there are books on a bench or on a table, but also if you look in the back, you'll see the books on the bookshelf, and they're not stacked in a traditional way, like vertically. They're stacked horizontally, and you could definitely mix it up, but it looks like all of theirs are stacked horizontally, which I think is very cool because it's something different and it's something unexpected. And I think that's exciting to me when I see, and that's a simple change. So rather than, and say perhaps you don't line your books up in rainbow order, but what you could do instead is you could start to stack your books, some going vertically or horizontally, and then some going vertically. So you could kind of mix it up a little bit so it moves your eye around the space, and that will create more visual interest. and it creates rhythm. So don't forget about all those principles of interior design. Go back to the Fundamentals of Creativity playlist if you need a refresher on that. That playlist is there for you to go back and reference if you're ever feeling stuck, if you're ever feeling like uninspired and you need like a little bit of inspiration. But I love stacks of books on tables, and then you can start to mix in like little small wonders. So little objects that you place on top of the books, little things that bring the eye in, that make you get curious. I also really love this vignette here. This is kind of my favorite type of vignette. You know, you've got a modern lamp. I just love modern lamps. I love them. I love lighting, but the modern lamp is such a great way to contrast the natural like wood elements, combine it with a piece of art. They've got a piece of glass. This has all of the elements. They've got a piece of glass with what looks like an object inside of it. I really can't tell. At first glance, I thought it was maybe a beeswax candle inside of a glass, like hurricane sort of vessel. And then they've got a small object in the center. They've got a small wonder. So they have all of it. I love it. Another picture with books. So again, take out all your books. Stack them on a table. Like, you know, this is a time to show the world, show your guests, remind yourself of, you know, the things that you love, the things that inspire you. This is your opportunity to put them out there for you to see on a regular basis, you know, rather than getting on your phone when you're sitting on the sofa with nothing to do. Pick up one of the books and start looking through the books, start getting inspired, start feeling, you know, like excited about possibilities. I feel like that's what, you know, these beautiful design books and art books, that's what they do for me. I get excited about, wow, like I take in all the inspiration. I take in all of the ideas and the creations of other people. I take those in, I digest it, and then it just naturally comes out in my own designs and my own creations. You know, there's no need to copy what someone does, but it's really more like taking the inspiration. So if you allow that inspiration to be readily available to you on your table, perfect. I also really love, like, you know, when you're displaying the books on your tables, they do not have to be closed. Like, this is a magazine, but you can also do the same with the book. Open up a book, find a page that inspires you. The great thing about that is you can always change out the page, and you are essentially displaying a new, maybe it's an art book, a new piece of art, you know, so you just flip through and you can change it out every once in a while. But there are all these ways that you can, you know, just make your home more stylish, and it doesn't cost you anything. Here you go, right here. I love this. A stack of books on the floor with a beautiful piece of pottery on top. Perfect. A table with stacked books, and then there are a couple little small wonders like on top of each thing, and a modern lamp. I feel like we're almost repeating last week's video right now because I'm getting into the modern lamp and how much I love them. All right, so now I want to share with you a little bit of bonus stuff that I recorded. So it's really about not judging yourself, but learning how to kind of create some of your own artwork. And I know, don't say it like, oh, I'm not an artist. I can't create artwork. And also don't say that, like, you know, people will say in the comments, well, you're talking about buying art from artists, like original art, and I don't have the money to buy original art. Okay, I get that. I 100% get that. And maybe you can't even buy a print. But you can get creative and you can make your own art. You don't have to buy art from IKEA, and you don't have to buy art from Home Goods. You can get creative and you can make some things on your own. So I'm going to share some things that I kind of accumulated on my dining room table to just kind of give you a quick idea. Like, look, I'm going to share these with you. They were just like quick little things I threw together, but it's meant to get, you know, you inspired. It's meant to make you feel creative and get kind of those creative juices flowing. So don't judge the little things that I throw together to try to give you an idea of how to create art. Focus on the fact that you can create things, and that's all I'm really trying to say. So let's get into that part. All right, my loves, that is it for this week. Stay tuned for next week. I'm so excited to bring you the 1-year anniversary of being in our home, Casa Serenita. I'm going to show you the walkthrough video and everything that we have done to our home. We managed to make this house look, I think, incredible. And so I can't wait to share with you the before and afters and give you that home tour. So until then, sending you so much love from New York. Mwah.